Aha.
Let's see, we're live on IG. All right. All right. We welcome for another episode of Real Estate Junkies Podcast. Today, we are diving deep into the space of real estate innovation with Ty. Ty has been, part of the real estate industry, been around for a while, and he has a legacy stretching back to 1993. Ty has mastered the art of navigating the challenging terrains of real estate industry and the real estate marketing space in Northern California markets, closing over 2,000 plus transactions from subject to deals to seller financing. Ty is here to share his expertise on acquiring and listing properties through creative methods, especially in this environment that we are in. We're going to get into the NAR conversation, handling distressed real estate situations like probate, bad tenant scenarios, and pre-foreclosures. If you are looking to elevate your real estate game with insider knowledge from one of the industry's seasoned pros, this is your chance. Unlock the secrets to success in real estate world with Ty. Ty, welcome to the podcast, brother. It's been a while that I met you, and it's a pleasure finally having you on the podcast.
I know, this is awesome. And I love, even pre-roll, we were backstage as we were coming out, and so many good things. I love what you're doing with your brokerage, EXP, what you're doing with your coaching, your leadership, and just all the above. It's interesting in today's market. It's so important that we're out there adding value. And that's when you described all the different projects, I'm like, man, you're adding a lot of value. And that's what's up. And that was the mantra. We met at Tony Robbins at a $10,000 a seat event, Tony Robbins Business Mastery. And that was one of the mantras: add more value, add more value. And you're doing it, brother. So I love it.
And believe it or not, Business Mastery took my business to a whole different level. I mean, if I were to rewind back and before Business Mastery, what I knew, what I know now, and what I have done in this last 2 years, I mean, I changed. I went from mom and pop brokerage to EXP over the last. It just became my 2-year anniversary about 2 weeks ago. So Ty, you have a rich history. Almost like a dinosaur. They would consider, because real estate agents, brokers, they don't last in the industry for this long. 1993, oh my God, like 4 years. I was 4 years old, right? Could you share the evolution of your journey, like how you got into real estate, my man? Like what have you been up to in this 30 years in real estate?
This is funny, and I did not plan this. I didn't plan this for this show, but I thought of this earlier with my wife. I said, where's my old telephone? So when I started, I'm an old school Mike Ferry cold calling cowboy. This was in 93. I went from this, okay? I went from this kind of a telephone. Hold on, wait for it. I went from that to this. This is for a lot of the kids out there, for a lot of you young folks under 40, maybe under 45, this was kind of like, this was cutting edge, $1 a minute.
It got a digital screen on there.
Yeah, this is like a mockery one. It's kind of like, it's like but this was like literally my first cell phone in like 94, 95, no, 93. So this is the first cell phone. And then we went to, hold on, wait a minute. Then we went to flip phone. My kids play with this all the time. And then of course we got the regular headset, right? That we cold call. And then now we've got, basically this guy, right? So we got the iPhone.
Yeah.
And so I'm literally, you said dinosaur, so I had to grab the props. I'm laughing about it. It's literally, I've gone from analog to digital, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. And I've gotten rich, and I've made a ton of money just by being able to see, okay, this is where we're going. So when I went out, my friends thought I was bananas. They thought I was crazy. When I had a cell phone, it was $1 a minute. It was literally not unlimited. It was $1 a minute.
Wow.
And it didn't round up or round down. It was like, You know, if you were on there for 45 seconds, you still paid for the dollar.
Wow.
Right. So, you know, I've always been what I would say cutting edge, not cutting edge, but just always looking for the next thing and to stay ahead. And so you're a smart guy. That's why even when you invited me, I'm like, man, I want to be a part of what you're doing because I know you're a smart guy and you're figuring out SaaS and funnels and all of that. And so that's where I'm going next too. So I'm going with you in that same direction.
Yeah, and the fact that you knew, like, as soon as I sent you the link for the calendar, you're like, oh, you're doing this. What's up? You know, like I was like, oh, this guy is smart. You know, I can tell. So how'd you get into real estate, and how was this last 30 years of going from without internet, doing business without internet, then coming across internet, then coming across smartphones, then social media, then YouTube, then I don't know where we are going from here, right? Like, how was that journey like for you?
It's been amazing. And I'll tell you that I was lucky. As a kid, I could kind of see real estate as something good, and I can remember probably being 11, 12 years old. I remember my folks buying a place, my grandmother specifically, and I really paid attention. And I can remember looking at the newspaper before, right, social media, and I can remember looking at the newspaper and seeing all the different realtors and their ads, and like almost like those were kind of like my local hometown heroes. I would see them taking new listings, and then all the classified ads, the We Buy Houses ads, infomercials, people on TV talking about it. So I was always, as a young person, teenager, not like totally in it. Like I was still screwing around and being a kid, but I always knew real estate was something good. And so when I was like 19, I met a guy. He was probably 25 and he had some rental properties. He was a contractor. He had like nice cars, nice home, all that. And I was really impressed. And he was like, hey, you need to work on your mindset. He told me to go read Tony Robbins for my mindset. And then he was like, hey, go read this book, a Robert Allen book called Nothing Down for the 90s, which was really like, this is how you go out and buy. It wasn't all about no money down. It's a good headline, a good title, but it was really like, get out there and find deals and do creative financing. So I was lucky, man. I just kind of like, I was always gravitated toward real estate as a young person.
Wow. And many realtors out there, right? They just stick to that traditional buying and selling. They come across like, okay, real estate, what am I going to do? The safest route is getting your license and help other people buy it and sell in houses. What inspires you to delve into like cash offers and wholesale? That's a lot more risky, at least from the real estate agent point of view, right? And how have these, different like alternative ways of creating wealth with real estate impacted your revenue and your bottom line and your business?
Yeah. So even from day one, so like I went and worked for a broker who was a very successful investor as well as a broker. And I went to work with him for that reason, because he is a deal maker. He had a hard money division. He had a property management. He had, he would buy stuff himself as well as he was a realtor. So, and he owned a mortgage company. So this guy was like, multiple streams of revenue under one roof. And so I went to work with him. I met some smart guys. So what I did is I always put myself in a situation to be like the apprentice, if you will. And that, like there was a guy that I met through my broker and through his daughter. She was also a realtor, super successful real estate attorney, real estate broker, creative finance guy. And so what would happen is he and I created a friendship, and he goes, hey, I've got these people, they need to get out of this deal. You and I'll put you in the deal, but you've got to be the legs and arms. You've got to do all the running. You got to deal with all the nonsense, all the BS, the tenants. You got to deal with getting the contractors, the rent, handyman, renovating it. So I was kind of like the boots on the ground, or I was doing a lot of the grunt work, but I was also learning. So what I did early on, a lot of people talk about it now, collaboration, joint venture. So I went and found other successful people, kind of on purpose, by accident, lucky, but I just really was able to find, these guys that were literally right under, like, right, my neighbors, basically, around my real estate office. So I was able to collaborate in JV with, these guys that were already super wealthy, and they liked me because I was hungry, motivated, And then also because, you know, I was a hard worker. Cause so anything they told me to do, I would go do, and I would do it the way that they told me to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I want to teach like a lot of things that you do. I looked in your background. And it's like, wow, this guy's like doing a lot of stuff. Like, you know, a lot of real estate agents, they're just clueless, right? Especially, you know, let's just kind of like get into that first, right? Like with everything that's happening with the NAR settlement, what's your outlook on that? Like, what's your opinion on that? What's going to come out of all of this?
We did not rehearse this. And just for the record, for everybody that's watching this, this is funny. Over the weekend, the NAR settlement happened late last week. And then over the weekend, I must have gotten, you know, 20 emails all over my social media blown up. Emergency Zoom, emergency meeting, town hall. Every real estate coach, big brokerage, any kind of quote unquote real estate influencer is like, oh my God, we have to have an emergency meeting. We didn't plan this. This just happened to work out on this day. But let me just tell you, right? Is that true?
Yeah.
Did we plan this around NAR?
No. We were just living life, you know, just doing our thing. And
we planned this like about a week and a half ago, 10 days ago, something like that. So it just worked out that this day. But I want to say though, this, everything I've been talking about and everything that I've been working towards, and it's so funny, even you didn't know this, but I was always saying to people in, you know, the people I talk to in my influence in my circle is like, are you the monkey or the dinosaur? And you started off by talking about the dinosaur. Are you a monkey or a dinosaur? And the idea, and again, this is a joke, but some truth to the joke in that, right? The dinosaur was extinct, right? And the monkey evolved, and kind of in theory, right? We say that the
human
became a man, right? He evolved into evolution, became a man. Well, that's what I advocate for realtors. And I've been saying this for probably the last 5 to 7 years. Realtors need to evolve. You need more tools in your toolbox. You need to be buying investment property. Doesn't mean you have to wholesale. You could. Doesn't mean you have to fix and flip, although you could and should. Doesn't mean you have to learn creative financing, although you could and should. But even just the fact that we don't have a realtor 401k pension fund. If you're not out there, like my thought is that every realtor should be picking up a deal once a year, once every year. For a lot of you, if you're successful and you're making money, once a quarter. Right. But the idea is that you want to be picking up properties. And not only that, but besides that, having more tools. When you know how to wholesale, when you know how to fix and flip, when you know how to do novations, when you know how to do creative financing, you can help a lot more people. You have the ability to serve people at a higher level, and not only that, but to monetize. Because here's the thing, just having a membership to the MLS and just having a Supra lockbox key and just having a license and the ability to fill out the paperwork halfway decent is not enough. That NAR settlement, basically just any kind of realtor that was kind of half-ass and they were depending on the things I just mentioned as kind of being gatekeepers, that's over. That's over. If you're not bringing value to the transaction, if you're not bringing expertise to the transaction, you're basically done.
And look, and I do, you know, I did my emergency meeting. Okay. Friday, I did my emergency meeting. As soon as it came out, I was like, emergency meeting. Right. And then we did like a 2-hour meeting earlier today. Right. And my thing is, okay, what can we do to help? And I'm going to do a webinar later this week on how to take 5 to 10 appointments from sellers on automation, leveraging, you know, AI and leveraging automation. Next week, we're going to do a webinar on how do you consult buyers to pay you your commission without discounting your commission, right? So we're always going to like, hey, honestly, like we've been doing this all along. For 7 years, I've been charging buyers $4,000, $3,000, $1,500 on top of the 3% we get. That's the truth, right? We've been running our business, preparing for the future, and we're always bringing that knowledge out to agents in the market. Now, I want to ask you, could you break down creative financing, right? For a lot of agents, they are like freaked out, wholesaling, creative financing, subject to, right? Like all those terminologies for them, it's like rocket science. And they're like, oh no, I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to hear that knowledge because it's going to distract me from buying and selling houses, right? And they just stick to buying and selling houses. And the reality is In today's market, there has never been a better time to wholesale. There has never been a better time to go into creating creative financing deals. Why? Because this is the time. Look, real estate agents probably hold the most amount of knowledge in the real estate space, hands down, right? Aside from some of the investors that are in the market that are savvy, that learn, right, that are involved in the market. They're talking to buyers and sellers, so they are the most fit to do the wholesaling, right? They know all the laws. They know what the ins and outs, do's and don'ts, right? They would watch out for this. So could you break down the concept of creating creative financing for our audience and explain how it can be a game changer for real estate agents looking to expand their offerings, their services?
Yeah, so creative financing is actually quite simple. And I've got to say that it's available. Like, I'm in California, so even the California Association of Realtors, CAR, they put together the forms, zip forms. I think most people have some version of that in their state. In the state forms, they actually have seller financing in there. It's an attachment to the RPA, but it has in there all the different terms and everything in there. And I think for people really getting comfortable in learning, number one, looking at your seller financing addendums, okay? All the information is out there on YouTube. I have a free creative financing course, and I just did it because when people call me and like, hey, it's like, I need your help. I'm just like, here, watch this 10 hours. And it's 10 hours. It's on Kajabi. I give it away for free for realtors.
Wow.
So it's just something to get their feet wet, and so creative financing, the reason why it is so strong, and I'll give you a couple of reasons why, is because with subject to as an example, there right now, interest rates are plus or minus 7%, 6.8, 6.75 to, they've hovered right around 7% for the last week or two. I mean, I've picked up deals in the last couple of years. I picked up deals at 3.5, 2.9. I had a deal, a really good deal, seller finance deal. They owned the property free and clear. It was about $600,000. I was able to put the deal together with a $15,000 down payment.
Wow.
And no interest, 0 interest. So every time a payment's made, it's buying down the rate, or not buying down the rate, buying down the principal. Yeah. So it's literally, you can't get any better than that, like in terms of a term. So I think number one is that you've got to learn what to say. All the information is out there on YouTube. You don't have to buy a mentorship or a course or a program or any of that. But I will say, I just spent a bunch of money on, I spent a lot of money. You and I met at a $10,000 event. And, I spend a lot of money. I invest in myself. And here's the reason why I will buy courses or sign up for mentorships, is because it helps me get there faster.
Yeah.
And what it does is it shortcuts. And so instead of me spending 50 or 80 hours on YouTube over the next 2 months or the next 6 weeks, I could potentially get together with a mentor or buy a course where I could just look at it, 4 or 5 days over a long weekend, Thursday to Monday, basically get all of it, plus get on a Zoom, ask my mentor or coach, hey, I got a question about this or that, or how does this work? So again, I'm not here to sell. In fact, I don't have anything for sale. I don't literally today, only because I'm so deep into my own business. Yeah. I'm not selling anything. I do have a free course, creative finance course for realtors. But I will say that creative finance, number one, learning how to do. The other thing is, this is interesting. Jamil Danji is a friend of mine, an acquaintance of mine. Pace Morby is a good friend of mine. He leads the Sub 2 community. I help in that community. I lead a Tuesday course, a Tuesday class on Tuesday mornings. One of the things Jamil talked about, and then Jerry Norton, also a big influencer, they talk about wholesaling is becoming illegal in a lot of states. And that not that it's becoming illegal, but they're going to require licenses. And then the joke, not the joke, but I've heard some commentary, people go, I wonder who's behind that, meaning like, is it the NAR? And the truth is, it probably is or should be. And the reason why is because guess what? You, as a real estate professional, if you have a license, you should be able to do these wholesale deals. And let me tell you why it's so important. The off-market wholesale assignment transaction why it is so important to have that available is because there's a lot of people that do not want to go through the headache and the hassle of having 30 or 40 people through their home. They don't want for sale signs. The house might be a mess. There might be a little bit of embarrassment or shame, or they're not trying to squeeze out every last dollar. They want the easy button, the no headache, the no hassle, fast path to cash. And by the way, in most cases on a lot of these deals, they bought the house for $100,000, 25 years ago, and now they're selling it to you for 300, and they know it's worth 500 fixed up, right? It's not a secret. There's no mystical thing about it. What you're doing is providing a solution for somebody who wants to close within days or weeks versus go through a 4 to 6, 8 week process. They want the easy button. So those are just some of the thoughts that come to mind.
Now, wholesaling can be what I have seen is like for a lot of real estate agents, even though they do the same thing over and over again for other people, but for themselves, when it comes to wholesaling, it's like, what's the verbiage? What do I put on the contract? And then they get all complex about it, right? Yep. Can you explain, like, in short, how can wholesaling help your typical real estate agents incorporate wholesaling deals into their own business? Like, how can they use wholesaling to their own advantage when they're out there just doing what they do regularly?
Yeah. So a couple things I would say is that most of the people out teaching it, not all of it, there's some good teachers out there, but a lot of the guys out there are teaching the slick rug pull, kind of slimy car salesman style of wholesaling. And, and I'm not pointing any fingers, but there's really like clean, ethical wholesalers. And then there's a lot of slicksters out there too. And I just want to be clear. You want to make sure that you are 100% doing what's in the best interest of the seller. And that what we're doing is I'm not showing up to somebody's on a phone call or showing up to somebody's property saying, here, let me buy the deal cash, blah, 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 or I'm going to do an assignment, or I'm going to wholesale the deal. And here, let's sign the paperwork. What I'm doing is I'm asking a lot of questions. What's important to you? What's the timing? What's your ideal timeline? What would you like to see happen? But really do a lot of discovery to figure out what's their real scenario and what are their hot buttons. What do they want to see? Also, taking into consideration the condition of the property. Is it going to require a lot of fix up and things, clean up to get it to market, staging and this and that, and and all. If they don't want to hassle with it, or the property's not sharp, that also factors too. If the property's really sharp, hey, let's just put it on the market and list it. I can get you a lot more money. We don't need to do the cash deal. So really showing up, number one, and really figuring out what's important to the seller. So that's always got to be what's a good fit for them, and giving them a couple of options, giving them the best options that fit their needs for their condition or situation. The other thing is that just paperwork wise, and that's really what the question you asked. It's important that you disclose you're licensed. You're licensed in the state of California or whatever state you're in, that you're participating in this transaction as a principal for a fee and or profits. Okay. The other thing that is very much a must for me, that there's no agency express or implied, that there's no fiduciary relationship, and that there's no agency express or implied, and that I'm not representing you. In this case, we've come to a meeting of the minds and we've agreed on a set price, and that I'm not acting as a consultant or a fiduciary in this case. That in this case, I'm acting as a principal, and I'm here to make money. And then it's very clear, and that they're rightfully they're agreeing to that, and that I may be buying it. I may be buying it in one of the entities. I may be partnering with somebody, or I may be assigning it for a fee. And so it's very clear that, all of that language is in the paperwork. And even if I am using the state contract, which we do, all of those little nuanced fiduciary duty and all the little nuances about agency express and implied and all of the, buyers, brokers, and just all of that language is superseded by an addendum and or additional terms that just basically spells it out in black and white, plain simple English, not fancy, that this is what we're doing. Here's exactly what our transaction is. And so it's really important that the contract speaks for itself. That there's no side agreements or he said or she said or he promised or none of that. Everything is in the paperwork and the contract speaks for itself.
Wow. You just summarized your 10-hour 10-hour course. That was a lot. That was a lot, my man.
Yeah, that's about. I'm sorry.
I was like, damn, he didn't miss anything. He just covered everything in there about wholesaling. Now, look, see, like what I have with the NAR thing, right? Like that's happening, right? So over the last 5 years, I have seen, a lot of investors jump in, right? And it's no secret that BlackRock, Vanguard, your JP Morgan Chase out there, they're all landlording right now, right? They're all buying houses, right? So how do you see like the whole real estate investor space getting saturated, or we just getting started? Like what with this NAR thing, I can definitely see there is going to be some at a very minimum, there will be a disruption, right? As far as buyer demand goes, as far as the people, the way they sell houses, their willingness to share commission and all that stuff, right? Like there will be a disruption. At what level, we just don't know. We just have to play it out. What is your opinion on the real estate investment space with all these hedge funds and big money banks getting into real estate investing and owning properties?
So good. Such a good question. So little backstory, 2007, 2008 to about 2013, I was a big, heavy disposition broker for Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, as well as a couple other dozen, One West Bank, Indy Mac Bank. I mean, you name them. I did all kinds of REO, bank foreclosures, appraisal, BPOs, but heavy listing broker for Fannie, Freddie, which controlled in my market about 78% of all of the REO inventory. Through that, I sold hundreds and hundreds of properties to Invitation Homes. Now that's always been a part of BlackRock, Blackstone. And then also there was another group out of Oakland, California called Waypoint. Waypoint ended up selling the inventory to Colony. Colony sold to, I believe that's owned by Starwood now. So I was very much, literally, I'd go to these hedge funds and they would literally have, 30,000 square feet, 3 floors in a tower. And it was like 2 floors of accounting and 1 floor of acquisitions. And that's all they did. So I worked very, very heavy with acquisitions. So these hedge funds, and let me just tell you, these guys know how to play the game. They developed software, underwriting processes. They hired and worked with the most talented people in the marketplaces, and they could see what the opportunities are. Now, the big thing is we're not in a down cycle. So it doesn't make sense. They're not going to flood the market. They're here and they're dabbling a little bit in all these markets, but it's not as bad as the headlines make it sound. However, if we see another wave of market, their market share could go from 1, 2, 3% to 8 or 10%, 10 or 15%. The thing that I will tell you this, and I'm telling you this because I understand who our audience is. Let me explain just so you guys really get crystal clear on the opportunity that's in front of you. Wall Street and stock market and the bond market and, equity, let's call it, all of that, trading stocks and all that, it's easy. You can open up an account on your iPhone right now and literally be buying stock by the end of the day. Right? That's easy. What happens is those are very efficient markets. Okay. We don't have to look hard. We pull it up. We know what Apple's selling for. We know what the buy is. We know what the sell is. We know what the futures are, the options, all of that. Yeah. The calls and the puts. We know that's easy. It's an efficient market. Well, let me just tell you, real estate is a very inefficient market, meaning that you've got to get into the street and you've got to go and talk to the homeowners, and every house is a little different, and you have homogenous neighborhoods. But even we all know Zillow's right half the time, a third of the time, like all these auto evaluations, they're in the ballpark, but they're never exactly right. Okay. Plus, not only that, they never really factor on where the market's going over the next 3 to 6 to 24 months. And so real estate is a very inefficient marketplace. That's where our opportunity is because each one of us, realtors, investors, brokers, deal makers, transaction engineers, whatever you want to call yourself, whatever you are.
Transaction engineers. That's funny.
That's what I consider myself, as a transaction engineer. I'll explain that later. But here's what it is. Because we're out on the streets.
Yeah.
What I call feet on the street. We're talking to people.
Yeah.
I just hired 7 cold callers today. So
wow.
in the Philippines, I literally did onboarding all day today. So onboarding, a little bit of training, I'll get them set, whatever. But literally, because we're on every day, even for me, I'm not like setting up in my, ivory tower. I'm still on the phone doing lead follow-up and training, talking to people. So I think that that's where the opportunity is because we're out there on the front line, talking to the public, talking to the actual homeowners and talking to the home buyers. And so we get a sense of what's going on.
Yeah.
And so that's where the opportunity is.
And it's very interesting the way you put it that way is that, look, unless someone's investing $1 million plus, they probably don't even talk to a mortgage broker, right? But in real estate, even if someone's investing 50,000, 100,000, they're talking to a real estate agent. They want the advice, right? So that's looking at it from that point of view should give a lot of realtors a lot of confidence, right? There are people who are spending tens and thousands of dollars, investing tens and thousands of dollars on Robinhood without talking to anyone, right? Just like investing money with a push of a button. But in real estate, people don't have, maybe in the future, they probably will have something like that. And real estate would have to become a lot more institutionalized for it to become that efficient. I don't think we are nowhere near close. So for many realtors, right, that are out there that have been around, I've been in real estate 11 years, right? 1/3 of your time, right? And you've been around for a while and you've seen, market crash, go up, probably 3 times. And there is a lot of bad tenant situations that are out there right now, especially since the 2008 situation. There has been landlords that bought up properties and they're just sitting on it, even though they're sitting on bad tenant situation, squatter occupied properties, properties that are vacant. How can real estate agents, especially now with all that equity sitting on the property, how can real estate agents find those properties and what can they do with situations like that to use it, within their advantage?
Yeah. Such a good question. And I'll say that 100%, I think, 100% absentee owners, landlords, got a lot of tired landlords.
Yeah.
And then even what would be above that, burned out landlords, sick and tired landlords, people that are just burned out, sick and tired. In California, we have some of the more strict rent control as a state. And then even like in the Bay Area, there's certain cities, municipalities that have really strict rent control. So there are a lot of landlords that want to get out of the business. Also, I'll tell you, probate and estate. There's a lot of, mom or dad or grandpa passes away and then, he owns these rental properties. And a lot of times the kids they'd rather just have the cash. Because again, I think our culture, not everyone, but I think culturally people like things, no headache, no hassle.
Yeah.
And it just, because of the ease of the internet and that you can go onto your phone and order and food will be here in 30 minutes and just, whatever, I need a ride to the airport. Somebody will be here in 10 minutes, right? Like I go to an app. Like, I think that our culture, there's a percentage of people that aren't trying to squeeze every dollar out of a deal.
Yeah.
They want ease, but also they want to know too, that you're somebody that can be depended on. And the fact that you're licensed. I used to be a little bit like, when I'm investing and buying, like a little bit like, oh, if they think I'm an agent, they'll think I'm like trying to get over on them. And I used to think that way early when I was young, having the license. And even guys would tell, oh, you shouldn't get licensed if you're an investor. You should not be licensed because then it's a problem, and I'm like, and then I figured out probably the last, 10 years, it's like, no, it's better. Yeah. I'm licensed. I'm legit.
I could be held accountable.
I'm accountable, right? Yeah. Exactly. I'm accountable. I know what I'm doing, right? I've been doing this a long time. So I think that we need to have more of a shift in our mindset, but also too, I'll say there's so much opportunity. And what I've said earlier about transaction engineer, when I'm talking to somebody and they say, yeah, I got bad tenants or I'm sick and tired, the tenant moves out at the end of the month. Maybe there's an opportunity to buy that deal and keep it.
Yeah.
Maybe there's an opportunity to do a creative finance to where I can buy and hold it. Maybe there's not an opportunity for that. Oh no, we really want all our cash out, but maybe I buy it and fix and flip it. Maybe the numbers are a little too tight for me. So maybe then it's a wholesale or an assignment deal. Or maybe the property's not that bad. And you know what? They clean it up. The seller cleans it up and whatever, or does a little bit. And then we just list it and put it on the market. I'm not attached. And so the transaction engineer is the idea that I can come in and I have anywhere from 6 to 8 to 10 different ways, even like a novation.
Yeah.
That's kind of a hot one everybody talks about. How does that work? Well, we went to a guy, we offered him like $550. He really wanted $600. We said, well, the construction's going to be long. We said, we couldn't do it. We said, you know what? We can do $600 if you stay in the deal with us and let us fix it up. We don't have to pay you off. We'll pay you off and get the deal done within 4 months. We got our construction. We paid for all the construction. We gave him non-refundable money. He still owned the property, but we had an agreement in place. We recorded the deal in the tax record, so he couldn't go sell it to somebody else. And then what we did is we fixed it up. We sold it. We gave him his $600, and then everything above $600 we made. We made his reimbursements for our construction first, but he didn't have any say. It was like he was getting the first $600, and then everything above that was to us. Yeah. And so that's a novation agreement, basically, in essence. But being able to articulate that, being able to structure those deals, you just don't know. So the idea is to have more tools in your toolbox.
Yeah. I think it all comes from knowledge and experience, right? And you surround yourself with the right type of people. You surround yourself people that are in the know-how. I mean, just listening to this, there's so much knowledge that just dropped. I'm like, okay, I got to be around this guy more, right? So can you provide our listeners, our audience, with your top strategies for educating and persuading sellers, right? That's what we're getting into right now, right? Zillow cannot get those deals. We can, right? We can get to the sellers before Zillow does because we are boots on the ground. So how do you educate and persuade sellers to consider different selling options, cash offer, seller finance? Like, how do you first of all find them, and how do you persuade them? What are your secrets?
So a couple things is that we've always been very proactive, and I've always cold called, had cold callers. I'm Mike Ferry trained. I started as an agent back in an investor in 93, an agent in 94. I started with Mike Ferry, Tom Ferry. I was a coach for Mike Ferry, a coach for Tom Ferry for a lot of years as well, while running my business. So I've always believed on getting on the phones, also door knocking, although we don't do a lot of door knocking right now. But I've always had cold callers. We always do a lot of outbound. We do pull like packages, farm packages, or, we skip, trace.
Yeah.
So we're typically pulling 5,000-10,000 records of absentee owners in any given county market. We actively work with probates and estates and trusts. So that's another niche. But we're very proactive there. But then the other thing too, and I love this, and this is where you and I really got excited today on today's earlier before we started, was that, so I'm doing a lot of social media. I've got a good social media presence, but I think educating, right? Adding value to people, explaining, this is how we do seller financing. This is why we do seller financing. This is how we do subject to, or this, how we do these different kinds of deals. So I'm explaining that. And then my audience is diverse. I've got a lot of realtors that follow me, a lot of investors, but I also have all my friends and family and, just regular people, right?
Yeah.
So, that's also a big part of what we do. But then tying it back to you, I love, because you're building out sales funnels, and I've toyed with it, but I'm one of those start, stop guys, because I am successful. I always just go back to what I've already been doing.
What's working, right?
Right. So now more than ever, and I just want to be really clear for everybody here. And I'm also, when I'm saying it to you, I'm saying it to me. Now more than ever, we need diversified channels. Not only do I need my cold calling and my mailers and my door knocking team, but even as important and more important in the future, it's the sales funnels. It's
digital, it's the digital channels. Yep.
Yeah, it's having the sales funnels and then integrating all of it, creating this environment where the education marketing's happening on social platforms. It drives back to the sales funnels. We're doing the direct to seller. We're doing that. We're doing education-based marketing, but it all drives back to the funnels. And the funnels are a way that we can nurture and basically convert and work with people and pull people in and nurture and develop relationships. So no, man, I love, for anybody that's watching this, you're in the right place with the right guy. So
all right,
you're the man, you got it. You're on the SaaS, you got it going. So
So finally, looking ahead, right? What's emerging? What's coming up with the emerging trends and opportunities? What emerging trends and opportunities do you see in the real estate market, industry as a whole, that could help realtors, increase their business, scale their business, make their business future-proof with all the threats and opportunities that are there, right, with the market?
This is the hard one. Nobody wants to hear this one, but I'm going to just speak it truthfully because this could be Black Monday, right? This could be Black Monday for realtors. And let me explain to you, there was a funny meme on Instagram where it shows like a knight and the queen is basically touching him with the sword. And basically what it says is it's like listing agents are going to be the dominant force. And so let me articulate and unpack that a little bit.
Yeah.
Mike Ferry said this 45 years ago, whatever. Tom Ferry says it. It gets lost a little bit in translation. We've got to be direct to seller. Everybody here, whether it's through direct marketing, cold call, door knocking, your centers of influence, friends and family, and or through the funnels, we need to get more seller focused and oriented. The person that controls the inventory is going to control the market. Mike Ferry said that for decades. It's the truth now more than ever, because guess what's also going to happen in commercial real estate, by the way. Commercial real estate's always been this way. For some of you that know this, most commercial successful brokers, they don't put stuff on LoopNet. They'll just list the property themselves and they double in
relationship
90% of it. Relationships. They've got a pool of buyers and they know, and they'll market it. And then maybe after 60 or 90 days, they put it on LoopNet. But let me just tell you what's going to happen is that buyer's agents are going to, number one, have to negotiate with the buyers to get some kind of compensation. And then ultimately it's going to be, they're going to have to go to the listing agents and negotiate to get their fee. Now, so let me go backwards though. We're in a very tight inventory market and we have been for a while. I want to explain this. So yes, the listing agents think they're hot stuff right now. They act like they're walk on water and all of that. And I'm one of them, but I don't try to big league anybody, but I've got somebody that handles all of that stuff for me. But my point being is that the market will shift. And I got to say this, and I was talking with a buddy of mine this morning. When I was selling REO, it was very common that I was making 1.5% or 2%. And the buyer's agent was making 2.5% or 3%. So the tide will turn again. So for you to have the buyers, it makes sense. But let me just tell you guys, do not get stuck thinking business as usual. If you are somebody that's very, very heavy on buyer sides or doing open houses and just getting the buyers, and you've been making your living that way, I know a lot of people do. That is going to be significantly more challenging in this new shift. All of us need to continue and be vigilant about generating more inventory, as well as, like I said, adding in the other tools that make you more valuable to a seller. The fact that, contractors, how to clean up a property, you understand probate, how to, the best eviction attorneys in town, all of these different solution-based scenarios to serve sellers. So everybody, you've got to get on the seller side.
Thank you, Ty, for your time and all of the value that you brought to our audience. I appreciate you so much.
Did I go too hard? Or was I felt like I was over talking you a little bit.
No, this is good. This is a lot of value, by the way. We need to do something about, bringing this value to the marketplace. So again, I appreciate you. Appreciate your time, everything that you do. Amazing work. And stick around. We're going to continue our conversation. And for those of you listening in, you get the message with everything that's happening. There is a big change coming to the marketplace. This is not the time to sit around and be like, oh, I'll be fine, or, have your head stick in the sand and you don't know what's going on. This is the time to get out there, learn, bring value to your clients, your prospects, your leads, whatever it is, however you're marketing yourself. And this is the time to really bring your unique value proposition to the marketplace. So that way the marketplace can recognize you as the expertise, as the authority. So they would do business with you and they won't even question you twice. Why do you want to charge what you want to charge? That's our model. That's our framework. That's how we have been doing business over the last decade. And again, as always, these podcasts, these episodes are sponsored by Boss Agents Academy, where we help real estate agents and brokers reach more people, change more lives, and create freedom. Until next one, see you guys on the next episode. Thank you.